Good afternoon, everyone. I call this meeting to order. Now the board secretary will now call the roll.
Chair Sutton.
Here.
Vice Chair Mejia. Here. Secretary Treasurer Nyorbe.
Here.
Director Angeles.
Present.
Director Kemp. Director Rawlings.
Here.
Director Thrash Intuk. Directors Kemp and Thrash Intuk have been excused. We have a quorum.
Thank you. So number 3 is public comment. This is the time at which members of the public may speak on non-agenda matters. Prior to inviting speakers to approach the lectern, I must state the following. At this time, I invite members of the public who want to address the board on any matter that does not appear on the agenda and is within the board's jurisdiction. If you have not already done so, I ask you that you submit a speaker card to the board secretary. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Agenda item 5 will provide an additional opportunity for members of the public who want to address the board on any matter that does not appear on the agenda and is within the board's jurisdiction. The board is here to receive comments only, and there will be no exchange of dialogue with the commenters. Are there any public commenters at this time? Okay, seeing none, there are no public comments. So we move on to item 4, which is the budget. Now, Kenneth McDonald will present agenda item 4.
Good afternoon, Chair Sutton, members of the board, LBT executive leadership team, our staff, and all who assembled here today. I am Kenneth McDonald, President and CEO at Long Beach Transit. And today I will present to you again the LBT's fiscal year 2025 operating and capital budget. As we get started, I will first orient you to the topics that I will review this afternoon. I will begin with the budget outreach communication plan, and then I will discuss FY 2025 budget, including the operating revenue, operating expenses, and the capital program. I will then talk about some of the initiatives that we are conducting in the outcome of the budget, and I will close with the budget recommendation for 2025. Based on the feedback received at the May 24th, 2024 board meeting, Long Beach Transit conducted a 2-week outreach campaign to solicit feedback and public comments on the FY 2025 budget. Beginning on Monday, June 3rd, the RideLBT.com website included links to the FY 2025 budget book and the presentation that were presented at the May 2024 Board of Directors meeting, as well as instruction on how to submit comments via email or voicemail. The June issue of the LBT electronic newsletter, Community Connector, featured the proposed 2025 budget feedback message. All other outreach material reference or link back to the website for the public to obtain these documents for review. As of Monday, June 17th, the board meeting page had 302 unique visitors. We received 8 public comments, and those were printed and provided to the board. So you should have these comments before each of you. The communication team posted social media messages on Instagram, Facebook, and X. All social media messages were posted in English, Spanish, and Khmer. The communication team also created tangible outreach posters and flyers that were available throughout the community. The image on the right depicts the posters that were displayed at the Transit Visitor Information Center. And the image on the left is the community flyer that was available in Khmer. Flyers in English and Spanish were also available. Now I will provide an overview of the fiscal 2025 operating budget. Having presented this budget before, I will not cover the organizational focus and the purpose of this year's budget. I will jump right into the fiscal year 2025 operating revenue. The following information can be found on page 45 of the budget book. LBT's operating revenue for fiscal year 2025 is $132.2 million. Operating revenue for FY24 was $125.8 million. This year, there's a 5.09% increase in operating revenue. Please note that this is lower than the 6% salary increase for some of our union members. I will talk about this in my discussion on the operating expenditure. The three most prominent revenue sources are the Los Angeles County provide the largest revenue of $59.4 million, or 45% of the total revenue. This revenue comes from local sales tax initiatives known as Prop A and C and Measure M and R. State assistant is second with $32 million, or 24.2% of the budget. This revenue comes from the Transit Development Act, or TDA, of 1971, which is comprised of local transit funds and state transit assistance. The state transit assistant is continually becoming more challenging. As you earlier saw this month, the governor and the deficit in the state is now exceeding $27 billion. The third largest part of our revenue is the one time of fiscal year $15.2 million, or 11.5% of the budget. This one-time revenue comes from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, or ARPA, and the remainder of these funds will be exhausted in FY 2026. You can review pages 63 of 16 to 69 for all the revenue sources and description in the budget book. In fiscal year 2024, LBT estimated a $9.5 million in fair revenue collection. We are projecting fair revenue actuals to be close to this $9.5 million. For fiscal year 2025, LBT is projecting a total of $9.7 million in fair revenue. A more detailed 5-year outlook of the fair revenue can be found on page 46 of the budget book. This year's LBT will continue the Go Pass program, which provides subsidized rides for on LBT's buses for students in participating K-12 and community college schools in our service area. The increased demand for this program in the rush hour. There is increased demand for this program in the rush hour, and it continues to strain our daily availability of operators and buses. Paying for this service is an extreme burden on LBT's finances. Nevertheless, the program addresses many societal needs for our youth and provides an immediate release for students and introduce public transportation for all students who may become future lifelong transit users. Another upcoming challenge LBT is facing is the call for free transit for more and more individual group from the LA Metro, who is also the regional transportation planning agency, and how connecting agencies will pay for these free rides initiative, as the cost to deliver our services continue to rise. The operating revenue I just discussed in the preceding table is shown in this pie chart by the revenue source and the sources and the dollar amounts. The information is found on page 45 of the budget book. Operating revenue for FY 2025 is $132.2 million. Now I will transition to fiscal year 2025 operating expenses. Looking at our overall expenses, you can see that we are a labor-intensive organization. We are people in the people business, both internally and externally. For FY 2025 operating expenditure, wages and benefits are approximately $92.9 million, or 70% of the total budget. All other expenditures equate to about 30% of the total budget, and this pie chart before you can be found on page 49 of the budget book. The fiscal year 2025 budget is guided by LBT's strategic priorities. LBT divides its core business functions into 6 categories that are shown on the pie chart with the corresponding expenditures. These are the cost drivers of LBT's transit business. The chart shown can be found on page 52 of the budget book. I will give a description of each business category in the next set of slides, which are captured in the budget book beginning on page 53. Transit service delivery, starting on page 77 of the budget book. This ensures that LBT has trained, skilled operators as well as employees to plan and schedule the service that we deliver. The functions directly related to transit service delivery are captured in this category. Providing daily transit service delivery can be expected is the largest expense within the agency at $57.2 million. We spent approximately $3.7 million on system security, and service planning and schedule along with training are elements of our service delivery and consume about $3.1 million this year. Dial lift and our aqua services make up the rest of this category at $2.5 million. And the total for the category is 66.8, or 51% of the total operating expenditure. Transit asset management, this chart can be found on page 54 of your budget book. This category covers maintenance and infrastructure, fuel and lubricants, procurement, and warehouse functions. LBT's first major focus is to keep our asset in a state of good repair. This ensures we have buses available to provide daily revenue services. Vehicle maintenance takes the largest share of this core business category at $20.8 million. Infrastructure and utility consume about $7.64 million, and we expend about $6.4 million on fuel and lubricant each year. Warehouse expenses are paramount to parts and maintaining our vehicles in a safe and reliable manner, and this accounts for approximately $1.3 million each year. Transit asset management absorbs $37 million, or 29% of the total fiscal year expenditure. The customer experience chart can be found on page 55 and include the agency's transit customer amenities and the customer relations and communication functions. LBT customers experience begin before boarding a bus, either at the bus stop or when one calls or access our website to gain information about LBT services. We provide high quality services, and customers have come to expect that standard from LBT. Our customers see LBT as a high performing agency, and we must continue to solicit feedback from our customers and seek ways to meet or exceed their expectations. That being said, the 2 areas included in this category are imperative in our long-term success. This year, we'll spend $3.4 million on enhancing the customer experience on the operating side. We also have a number of customer experience on the capital side also. We are focused on making sure that our customers know we are listening to them and taking steps to address their concerns. We will expend $1.5 million in customer amenities department to keep our transit stop in first-class condition. This category also received funding on the capital side, as I said. About 4.9% or 4% of our operating budget will be spent on the core categories of customer experience. LBT's next business category is about managing the agency's risk. This chart captures the agency risk management department, including insurance, workers' compensation, liability claims, and risk mitigation. The agency will extend $6.3 million in this category, or 5% of the total operating expenditure. LBT expends $2.2 million in annual insurance premiums, and $3 million, or about 50% of this expenditure, goes towards LBT's self-insured policy deductible. If there are unused funds from the fiscal year, the funds are retained and reallocated to the next budget year. Corporate risk management can be located on page 97 of the budget book. Information technology begins on page 99 of the budget book. This category includes a network of critical information and data management system that enables LBT to effectively perform its day-to-day functions. This area is fast becoming one of the most critical functions of our agency. A secure and reliable IT network is as important as managing the agency risk profile. LBT is moving towards a cloud transition and is investing more in cybersecurity, project delivery, computer upgrades, and new technology, such as remote help desk support, Zoom and MS Teams Room across LBT, and visitor management software. LBT also plans to explore and utilize technology such as forward-facing cameras, onboard electronic advertising, employee skill development portals, and artificial intelligence. Staff is seeking product lines integrated with advanced generative and predictive AI capabilities to streamline our day-to-day operation. In our search for a new ERP, EAM, enterprise resource planning and enterprise asset planning tools, our priority is to ensure the inclusion of generative AI within the project suite. $5.5 million will be spent in this category, which is about 4% of our total operating expenditure. The internal business function category incorporates the personnel plans and mechanism to ensure that LBT can effectively lead and focus on its mission. LBT will expend $11.2 million, or which is 8% of our total operating budget. Therefore, 92% of LBT's spending goes directly towards organizational plans and programs to provide services to our customers. Properly handling our administrative category makes LBT an efficient organization, as the vast majority of our dollars are spent on maintaining our asset, delivering on daily services, expanding technology, and protecting our organization. The internal business function starts on page 101 of the budget book. These two pie charts can be found on page 45 and 52 of the budget book and shows the revenue and expenditures of the organization. The chart depicts a balanced fiscal 2025 operating budget that is presented to you today and is a requirement of the organization. The FY 2025 budget, let's say again, is $132.2 million. I will continue with the capital. Our capital budget focuses on implementing a capital investment strategy that assists the agency in controlling operating expenses. More information can be found beginning on page 111 of the budget book. The capital analysis process before you is the tool used to evaluate and prioritize our capital project. Using a prioritization system, we rank our investments related to the major needs of the organization for improving safety and security, enhancing customer amenity, rehabilitating and maintaining our assets, modifying and expanding our facilities, replacing and expanding our fleet, and upgrading and introducing technology systems. We have established a 3-tier prioritization process to effectively manage our limited capital resources. The ranking systems allow staff to identify projects each fiscal year based on the project value to the agency. Essential means that a project must be delivered and are funded first in the funding tier. Priority is critical to support and deliver our core business and services, and these projects are next on the available funding ladder. Value added is important to our transit business, but can be delayed if funding is constrained. LBT main focus is to have a capital investment strategy that allows the organization to invest in projects that will control operating expenses over the long term. All capital projects are developed in consideration of the capital strategic focus elements as shown on this pie chart and can be found on page 117 of the budget book. A group of employees who are leading the data management of LBT's key performance indicators are selected to conduct the initial evaluation of all capital requests. The group recommends when and where, and then presents to the ELT the list of the project that they have identified to move forward. After in-depth review and discussion, the major categories of funding allocated by the executive team and decided upon by them is presented to you here today. Rehabilitating and maintaining assets takes the majority of $20.8 million in fiscal year, or 46% of the total capital budget. Replacing and expanding our fleet takes about 16.34% or 36% of the budget this fiscal year. Modifying and expanding our facilities, about 2.96 million or 6%. Enhancing customer amenities, about 2.28 or 5%. Improving safety and security, about 1.82 or 4% of our budget. And upgrading technology, about 1.6 million or 3% of our budget. As displayed before you is the slide that is found on page 119 of the budget book. Our capital funding comes from 3 major sources. Capital funds are projected at $45.8 million. 24.2 is slated to come from the federal government, another 16.3 from the state, and 5.3 million from local sources. Beginning on page 123 of the budget book, you can find more detailed explanation on the capital projects LBT will be investing in FY 2025. For LBT's budget bus replacement program, we will be spending $16.6 million for the next 20 BEB bus procurement in the fall of 2024. LBT is also planning a midlife rehabilitation of 13 60-foot articulated CNG buses starting in the summer of 2024. We will also look at our customer amenities team working on a scope of work to update bus stops along Cherry Avenue, Long Beach Boulevard, and Atlantic Avenue corridors, and improvements to the transit gallery in FY 2025. In FY25, LBT will continue transition to a new phase of the ERP EAM system for procurement processes, which will include awarding the contract in the fall of 2024. LBT is currently evaluating vendors who will manage the implementation process and collaborate with internal implementation teams to redesign business workflows, enhance business processes, improve data collection and reporting, and the integration of new software into our business practices. LBT goal is to also have a zero emission fleet by 2030. In order for this zero emission fleet to be incorporated, LBT must have the appropriate infrastructure in place. The goal is to increase the capacity of LBT1 to 125 charging stations. As you can see in the picture here, we are planning single chargers and overhead charging with solar panels that would help in providing electricity to charge the buses. We're currently working to release the new procurement for an A&E design services to provide conceptual drawings that will enable LBT to hire a construction manager and firm who will then put out a solicitation in 2025 for design, build, charging infrastructure expansion, and construction services. This will allow us to continue to expand our zero emission purchases in FY 2025. Before you is the balanced capital budget for FY 2025. You can see the funding sources and the capital project where the money will be allocated. This can be found on page 59 and 60 of the budget book. The theme of this year's budget is creating efficiency through organizational optimization. And staff is focused on the theme in the development of fiscal year 2025 budget. The two balanced budgets that are shown before you will be the guide for implementing day-to-day organizational functions. The FY25 budget outcome will address some of these or address these elements, but through the next couple of slides, I will go through specific initiatives that will be focused on in fiscal year 2025. This slide highlights LBT's strategic priorities, which is the functional pillars used to plan, develop, evaluate, and measure the agency's annual objectives. These strategic priorities are the agency's continual activities to improve safety and service quality, exercise financial accountability, foster employee engagement, enhance customer experience, and promote community and industry focus. I will now review some initiatives planned under each strategic priority for FY 2025. In FY 2025, under improved safety and service quality, some of our major focus would be on the forward-facing cameras on buses to evaluate people misusing the bus stops in our service area. We will try to use that to determine how we move forward in addressing misuse of bus stop parking. We'll evaluate our workers' compensation program, as this program is fast becoming one of our fastest growing expenses in our operation. We'll update our emergency system and responses, and that is required to be done every couple of years. And this year we will go through our emergency system update. We'll develop a predictive maintenance program for our buses. As we go more into electric buses, we are working on a program to predict failures, as we expect that we would know much better when failures can occur and try to avoid them before they occur. We'll implement a cybersecurity program, expanding our cybersecurity program. We were hacked early last year. We were fortunate enough to protect our organization, not to be exposed to that hacking, and we like to make sure we stay in that place. We'll increase our operator hiring. We're looking at a new practice of hiring. I am in the process of looking at hiring past retired operators to help us with interviewing new operators. I believe those folks would have the capability to know exactly what we're looking for and help us to be able to increase our hiring of operators. We're about to begin that program in fiscal year 2025. And we will continue aggressive zero emission bus program replacement. Under our financial exercise financial accountability, we're going to continue our automatic passenger counter replacement program so that each of our bus would have automatic counters for passenger boarding and alighting, mostly on the boarding side. We'll initiate a comprehensive fare study. We want to understand where we are in the fare collection and fare management. So we are bringing in a firm to help us to do a comprehensive study on our fare system. As I mentioned earlier, we will implement an ERP/EAM system, which will help us to computerizing our day-to-day operation. And that will help to drive some more technological improvement in the way that we do things to try to reduce manual operation in the organization. And finally, we are looking at evaluating our scheduling system to look at more efficiency on our transit system. Under foster employee engagement, we will conduct an employee survey this year. We have not conducted a survey since the pandemic. I'm looking at in fiscal year 25 to conduct an employee survey. We want to reinitiate our intern program. This has been a very successful program using students, bringing students from the local colleges to work alongside our employees. And we have grown from where we had 3 interns to now we have 25 interns in Long Beach. This is a paid program, part-time, that has been very, very successful for our organization and had been slowed down during the pandemic. We're going to expand our employee development plans and how we make sure that employees are prepared to do the work that we need to do in this agency. We'll also expand employee wellness program. A lot of our operators, our operation system is very, very static, and we have a lot of injuries that come up. So we are looking at ways how we can enhance employee wellness. And we're also evaluating a maintenance apprentice program to try to get apprentices in the system so we can keep our mechanic count to the 60 that we have budgeted. From a customer experience perspective, we're going to implement a customer care framework. It's really a customer service program that we train operators and customer care agents on how we expect you to behave in Long Beach Transit relative to caring for our customers. We're looking to audit our bus stop amenities and artwork so we can fully understand what we have. We have a lot of art in our system, and I'd like to know where we are with all of the artwork and how we can provide that. Produce that is something that is really a very positive experience with our LBT, but we never talk much about our artwork that we have on our system. We're implementing a Wi-Fi pilot and digital advertising on the bus. We are right now trying to pilot out, and when we get to the next phase, we'll make sure that we continue to look at how we can expand that across our services. We're also looking to pilot a wayfinding system program. Have to get better at sharing for people who are visiting. We continue to have more and more visitors, how we have a better wayfinding program. And upgrade our customer notification system. We're looking at how can the customers notify us quicker about things that are happening on the buses and us responding to them. And we have a code of conduct that we've had in the system for quite a while. We're going to re-promote that code of conduct because we're seeing some challenges with people with food and stuff like that on the buses. Finally, under the promote community and industry focus, we'll measure and evaluate and communicate the value of transit to the program called TransDash that we have been working with, and how we measure value, not just performance of the organization. We'll conduct an operator survey. We did one about a year and a half ago, and we'll conduct another operator survey of how the operator can help us to improve the service that we provide, because they are the one that on day-to-day basis providing that service to our customer. Our community and customer survey will be conducted with focus group and mystery riders and call. And what is a mystery rider? It's someone who rides the system and observe how we're performing, give us feedback. They also call the customer service center and act with things that they may have experienced on the system and see how we deal with it so we can improve the way that we deal with customers. We're going to host a couple of industry events. TransDash, which we are hosting this month, Apter in December, CTA in November. The Apter is in September, I think, and then CTA is in November. And we do NTI, which is a National Training Institute. In our room back there, we do training with them a couple of times a year. And we're going to establish a communication plan for legislation affecting LBT. This has been requested a couple of times, and I'm going to bring this to the board this year on what we're doing and how we go about with our legislative activities. With that, I conclude my budget presentation today, more abbreviated without all of the industry focus, because I wanted to leave time for us to have discussion. So therefore, I am requesting the board to adopt the LBT's fiscal year 2025 operating and capital budget. Thank you for your attention and staying with me through this presentation. I will try to answer any questions you may have now.
Great, Ken. Thank you for that presentation. I'd like to also recognize that Director Thrashnuntuk arrived before your presentation. Thank you. Welcome. And also, so we're going to, in the course of this, we'll ask for a motion. Once we get that cleared, then we'll ask for public comment, and then we'll bring it inside to ask questions from the board. That's okay. So do I hear a motion to approve the budget?
Motion to approve the budget.
Thank you.
Añorbe seconds.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, and so we'll open it up for public comment. At this time, I'd like to invite members of the public to come up and speak. If you filled out a speaker's card, anyone from the public? Okay, so we'll bring it inside. I'm sure there's going to be questions inside. And are there any questions inside from the board? Randy?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank staff and also thank Ken and everyone that supported the team. I know we were a little bit unhappy last time about the process, and honestly, most of my concerns in our last meeting were about the budget process, not about the budget itself. And I don't think today's the best day to address those. So I do want to remind the rest of the board too that like none of this is set in stone, my understanding. I don't believe there's anything keeping us from, if we have concerns, bringing them up today and then addressing them again in a few months, right? But I do feel that since last meeting, Ken in particular did a good job addressing some concerns that we had and focusing in on areas that we asked for refinement for. I don't think it's, perfect budget. It's never going to be, right? But thanks to you and staff, and I'm going to yield most of my time today to address everyone else's concerns because I personally feel comfortable moving forward with what the team's done.
Thanks for expressing.
Vice Chair?
Great. Thank you so much, Ken, for bringing this up again and for staff's time. I was very, very excited to see that this meeting, we had 8 public comments. I think, and I want to thank staff for including advertisements, for going out of their way, doing it in Khmer and Spanish and making it accessible. So I think this is my first time seeing this, and I think this really gets me really excited getting the community involved. And I know a lot of these public comments weren't specifically about the budget. Some of them were, but I think some of those key issues that I read all of these 8 public comments, and a lot of the things was like services, right? Like people are waiting longer for services, for the buses to come. It's, a lot of questions about the passport. So at some point, I would love to see how we're gonna address these issues because the community did come out and put it in writing. A couple of my questions regarding your presentation, I know you mentioned, and I'm really happy to see that there's gonna be a survey out for our employees to hear from them as well of what needs to, how things are going. Because I think checking in every year on assessing what is going right and where can we improve is very important. So I think I do appreciate that in the budget, we're also going to be seeing the scheduling system. So I think this aligns with a lot of the things that the community submitted. And then I have a specific question about the, I know that we're going fully electric and you mentioned it in one of your presentations about going out for bid on how we're gonna expand our our Anaheim location for that. Are you expecting that to go out to bid for next year, or do we have like a specific timeline for that? I know that
I think it's coming to the board in July.
in July. Okay.
I think we're bringing it to the board like in July. Yeah, it's July because we don't have a meeting in August. So it is July.
Okay, great. So I think that was my specific, like I echo, Randy's comments about, about the process. I think this is something that we need to continue to reevaluate. How can maybe it's not, I don't think the budget should be, especially knowing how big our budget is and how many people we're impacting, that it doesn't have to be one meeting. I think it needs to be 2 meetings moving forward and really engaging, letting community know about the budget process and how they can get engaged. So I'm going to stop there and then send it back to our chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any questions
And
on this side?
before we go on,
Oh.
if I wanna personally thank Franz Mike, who really stepped up after the last meeting and we talked about outreach, that she's really stepped up and took the time and the effort, and you saw the work that was done. So I want to publicly thank her. I could stand here and say, yeah, but I was not. I spoke with her, said what we wanted, and they got to work and got it done. So I want to recognize what they did. So Lorenza, thank you very kindly. And Mike is the lead. Okay.
Thank you. Any questions on my left? Yeah. Director?
Thank you. So what this budget I think represents and reflects is the sheer complication of running a transit agency in a modern society. All of the different facets that you went through really, show what's happening, the dynamics of our overall society and community. So thank you for taking the time to do that. The couple of comments that I have, it's probably about 5 or so areas that I just want to talk a little bit about. So I'll start in. The first is, it's already been echoed by other directors here. We want to make sure we have the resources to be able to have some level of dynamic planning and understanding as to, both input regarding scheduling. Got a lot of public comments around that. It appears that the areas around education and job centers in our city and in our region are 2 areas where we really want to think about where are people coming from and how are they getting to those educational facilities and job centers. So I just want to make sure that we have resources for that. That's item number 1. Item number 2 relates to some conversation that we've been having and had in our board retreat regarding additional resources. I'll come back to this topic as well, but specifically around the city of Long Beach. And today you outlined that those resources come from Prop A, a specific percentage. So just wanted to get a sense of your the staff sense of sort of the long-term planning around resources that'll still be available from Prop A, the levels that they'll be at. Is that something that we can consistently rely upon as an agency?
So Prop A is I want to make sure I'm saying which one it is, because we have Prop A, Prop C, when I look at our funding, if the question is, do we expect that these funding would be there? I think most of it that depends on, I expect it to vary. It will be there because a lot of it depends on taxes. And so having, when these measures, like Prop A is a half-cent sales tax, right, in LA County. So if the, depends on how the economy is, it will be there. It's just that how vibrant the economy is will depend how much more money we'll have. There's a downtrodden economy, we'll expect it to go down. So it varies with the economy.
Thank you. The related to that, the other matter that I wanted to bring up is that not only is this agency, but certainly it seems that a number of transit agencies, not only in our region, but across the country, across the state, and other municipalities are seeing into the future and not seeing the revenues that are needed in order to keep pace with the ability to provide the service and employ people at quality job levels. One of the things that we just saw at the Long Beach City Council is that the City Council did commission a study to try and understand what potential revenue sources might be in a meaningful way to be able to cover some of those gaps that may come financially. As an agency, are we going to be looking at and have the resources to be able to understand everything from what are all the potential revenue sources, and then connected to the city of Long Beach, if as this transit agency in comparison to other transit agencies within a city, what kind of resources do they typically get from those jurisdictions? How does that work? As one example of the area that such a commission study could cover. So is that something you think we can be looking at and planning for in the future?
I would say that the answer is yes. I am not aware of that study. So when I walk out of here, I'm going to find out about it. And if there's something that we could be a part of, less than about 6% or less of the money that runs Long Beach Transit is part of the city of Long Beach. But if there is a study that's being done and how they're looking at revenue, I was not aware of that.
Not that you should be at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as I think it's
But it'd be
something.
good to know what they're doing from what you were saying.
Absolutely. And I'm just thinking from an analogous standpoint, we could probably commission a study like that to see what other agencies are doing from a revenue standpoint. And if there's anything that we could glean from for this agency to support your revenue and our
Right.
revenue.
So the answer is yes. I stay very close to that part of the California Transit Association, CTA, that is the body of all the transit agencies in California. That's the main focus. It's that organization is about funding for transit and about things that make transit run better, maybe laws or things that can go to the Senate or to the House and look at how can we improve transit. There's one here in California, and then there is APTA, which is the National Committee. We're involved with both of them. I am on the board of CTA, and a lot of the financial side of I tend to stay with the finance in APTA. I don't get involved with a lot of the upkeep and other parts of it. But yes, there are two major organizations in the country what their focus is: advocacy for transit. And we're strongly involved with both of them.
Great. And then this is connected to my fourth of the fifth, and that is related to you talked about it, and I'm so glad to see it in your strategic direction, which is really looking at what our government affairs strategy is, going ahead and strengthening that. I was noticing, given that so much of the emphasis is on education, might we identify some education partners that could be co-champions with us regarding transit, given that so many youth as well as older adults use the transit? I would even venture to say that we need to continue to form alliances with an AARP and their strong lobby at all levels of government to be able to see if we can, make some connection around the kinds of things that they're advocating for in connection with transit and revenue opportunities.
That's thank you. I've never been involved with AARP, but that's a thought. Why not? So this, I want to make it clear. There are things that I bring and I can stand and say, the point about the government advocacy and bringing it to the board and us, what we're doing was something that came from the board. I'm just making it happen. So I'm not going to stand and see McDonald came up with that. I am just facilitating that it will happen because that mostly came from the board.
Great.
So I will continue to make sure that we are going to present, like we talked about, what do we do when we go out and advocate so that the board can understand what are the top 3 points. We're going to come with things like that on what we're doing. But
Great.
that was board driven. I'm just making it happen.
Then my final comment is related to the new procurement management system. Looks like we're looking to procure. As you know, procurement is an area that is a keen focus to me. And I'm very we do not have to answer the question right now, but I will be very interested in understanding what equity data will be collected within the system. I want to understand where our vendors come from, the demographics, the characteristics of them, and wanting to make sure that that software is able to capture that information up front and easily automate it so that we can see reports accordingly.
Okay. As you say, you don't want it today, I will answer it. Get there and come to present it to the board. We'll talk about what it is that system is going to do for us. A lot of that is already in place. The system is just going to be adding to making it happen because we have to do that right now for the federal government on how we equitably share our resources. We don't go with only one group. So that is something we have to do from each year. They do an audit, triennial audit where they look and make sure we haven't failed an audit yet. I don't think we ever will. But they've come in with audits. I'm looking for Lisa. That's our audit lady that makes sure that we don't fail audit. We get findings, but very, very minor findings. But we can talk about that when we get to the PRPM system. How we
All right, thank you, Mr. McDonald. I yield to the chair.
I thank for those questions. Those are very interesting. AARP, I'm going to think about that.
Are there any other questions for Ken? Director?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ken, and thank you to the staff. I'll echo something that's already been said. I too was concerned about the budget process when we met in May. So I'm appreciative that we had the retreat. I'm appreciative of the second special session. I'm appreciative that the majority of the board is present and the opportunity for public comment was made. I also appreciate that you broke down the strategic priorities like you did. That's something that was missing. I also was appreciative of the ELT's presentations at the retreat. It gave me a lot clearer understanding and an idea of what projects, of what they do, and what projects we can look forward to seeing and working with them on. As we move forward, I do hope that we can continue to engage in conversations about the budget and how you see it implemented. Some things that came up in the public comment and things that the board has brought up is bus shelters, the frequency and hours of bus routes, especially those that impact students, business parks or business centers, and those that service the larger metro A-line stations at different hours, especially after midnight and on the weekends. The passport and also tourist spots in our city. With all that said, I do support the budget. And again, I thank you and the staff. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Okay. Ken, I just have a couple questions for you. I noticed that in the FTE budget, there are 4 new positions for IT. Could you describe why we need 4 new positions?
So we only have one really new position in there. We took other position and we took one position and broke it into two. We had a project manager. Now, because we're going with the ERPAM, we're taking that position, added some dollars, and those two positions are going to be overseeing with the head of IT, the ERPAM program. So that is one that was an existing position that we just split into two coordinators. That position was, I think we added about 5,000 to get the two, because that was a management position that we're now making into coordinator. And then the second, I'm trying to remember the other two, but they're going blank right now, but I know only one of those positions is new.
What is the effort that these individuals will be doing? Is it because there's expansion of technology, or
So the coordinators are going to be directly related. An ERPAM disrupt the whole organization. So we're going to have these people involved with the project to make sure that we simplify the impact to all employees in the organization and oversee the projects that we have going that has technology. We didn't have it laid out like that in the past. Our new executive director came to me and said she'd like to split it, and I agreed that it made sense to do that.
Okay.
So that those people can direct their time more to the ERPAM is gonna take us about maybe 3 or 4 years before it's really done. I say 2 years as implemented, and then getting us to where we're really comfortable with the software. It's brand new for us. We haven't had that in over 20 years. We haven't had a software change in this organization. So it's going to be a culture shift for a lot of us in here. I say awesome because I know I have to go through it myself.
Yeah, thanks. Just a few more questions. I'd like to echo the comments that directors made about service levels. We have, what, 8 comments here in writing that we did not read into the record, but I understand they will be in the record. And many of them are suggesting that we expand the passport. And this gets to one of my concerns is that I want to make sure that I want to challenge staff to figure out ways that we can move people from entertainment and business zones back and forth. You know, people that are visiting downtown should be able to get to the shore or Bixby Knolls or wherever they want to go quickly. And I think the passport is really good about getting people around the downtown area and out to the Queen Mary and things. But and actually, my son took the water taxi this weekend with his girlfriend and had a great time. I just want to let you know that. I think that we just need to concentrate on these areas, and I think this is where the city could be involved as well, and the importance to the city on transit service moving these folks back and forth, which will become a major concern during the Olympics, as none of the sites will accommodate cars. So it would help us to practice right now, for that. It sounds like a long way off in 28, but it isn't. The other things I wanted to ask about is the budget as it's proposed, does that accommodate fully staffed? For example, our operators on the buses, are you looking at the budget saying 100% staff, or is this at an 80% level or a 90% level based on,
hiring, firing,
yeah,
changes, people retiring, but
Right.
90% is where we balance.
90%?
Yeah.
What would you speculate that we're at right now in terms of staff for operations?
We have 500 and we're about 450, so that's 50, about 50 of 500, we're about 80 something percent. I think, one thing about it is that each month we lose about 2 or 3 operators for retirement, average about 3 most times. That is one of the driving factors behind the point about keeping up. We could get in operators, but we have a number of people now that are retiring. I was just looking at our pension program this week, and our 60 and above is the highest percentage in our organization. So you're getting to the point where you have people retiring, adding to the point of people who had the difficulty in getting people in. But I do believe we have the ability this year to do some things to make that positive. If we can keep it at 90% fill, we can provide service all the routes we have planned every day. So
Yeah,
that's
because some of these comments are about, getting service back to pre-COVID levels.
being able to afford.
Yeah,
that, yes.
the other thing about the budget, just overall, I was scratching my head about it and kind of fretting about it. If I was looking at our budget at home and pretending that was my budget at home, I'd be very concerned because salaries are up, and well, they should be with inflation, but the cost of retirement pensions is up, the cost of maintenance is up, the cost of service is up, cost of buses is up. So how do we accommodate those increases with today's revenue?
I wish I could answer that question. It's something that if I can see the crystal ball, that's the challenge that we're facing today, is that our expenses are climbing faster than our revenue is growing. That's the big challenge that we face as an organization, where most organizations are talking about the fiscal cliff. In about 3 years, we are going to be confronted with this. What if resources or funding is not found? We are in a 3 to 4 years from now. There are organizations, I just saw Boston this week saying that within the next year, they expect to hit that fiscal cliff. But that is coming to all of us. If I could peer in my crystal ball, I can give an answer. I don't have an answer. We work at this every day. I think that, a lot of in California, and where we are, is a lot of our measures are tied to taxation. So a good economy, things look really good. When the economy is down, we're in a bad place. So it's tied a lot to that, the kind of economy. Yeah.
I hope that the staff will come back to the board on a regular basis and report about our fiscal cliff and approaching it and what we're doing to stave that off if possible during the next year or two. Would appreciate that we don't look at that or address that once a year. And that I think the board's principal directive overall is transparency. And I think that staff has improved transparency a lot this year by advertising the budget ahead of time. I'd like to see more on that in the future. Because I think that's important, and it's important for the community to have a role and hear their voice in how our services are put out there. And so I'd appreciate it if you would consider that. That takes care of my questions. I'd like to commend staff and you for preparing and presenting this budget. And I'd like to, are there any other comments?
So thanks, Ken, for all the time you put in, and especially the time you spent with us at the retreat. Just want to say there's obviously a lot of work ahead between the agency and the city together. But I do think that there's opportunity, and just to kind of set the table, I hear from you, very clearly some work that needs to be done on the sort of bus stop advertising. And had a chance to spend some time with the city manager last week, and I do think that there's a path forward. So maybe at our next, big meeting, you can kind of identify on your team, who's going to be on point on that. And then just in the year ahead, I think the budget provides the framework to do that. But the city really does want to work on microtransit, and I understand, you have some very real concerns about the labor cost impacts of that, but we really do have to, as an agency and as a city, work on last mile, first mile, last mile. Otherwise, we're not going to get, people loaded back up on the system. So I think even though it's hard, we got to lean into the hard and do that. And then just on the service planning side, just so all of your staff understands, from a land use standpoint, there's something very important about 15-minute headways, and that's considered what's called high quality transit. And that counts from a land use standpoint and makes it much easier to develop housing and other things under state law. So in the soup of all the stuff you're thinking about, I think we do need to have some like hard discussions about routes that only operate once an hour, and should that route operate at all versus locations where we can get a really good density of service and we can achieve, high quality transit as defined under state law, and always have 15-minute or better headways. So those are big. And then on the Queen Mary, we've brought it up with you and your staff before. We have a lot of service employees out there that aren't well served by bus service today, and we have to address that, which is different than an opportunity that we see on sort of the water taxi, water bus, and thinking about that season. And that's a tourist service. So I do think, we can look at the fare structure differently next year as part of that. And then the passport, it came up in the public comments, it came up a lot. Downtown just operates very differently than it did pre-pandemic. So I think we have to look from scratch at the passport, and we need to talk to DLBA, which is the partner there downtown. And maybe it doesn't have to be free forever. Maybe it's low cost service, and maybe it goes fewer places, but serves those places really well. So I just wanted to commit to you to doing that work and hope it's a two-way street. So I think there's some critical work both the city and the agency need to do to have a successful year.
I would comment on a couple of things there. I'm happy to hear that there is an appetite for advertising on the bus shelters. I think gives us an opportunity to look at revenue. We have put a plan for high density transit together. So sitting and really making that a priority in a city like this, the more you can have high priority transit corridors, the faster we can run and the less vehicles we need. So there's a lot of savings if we can come up and agree that we make those corridors, transit corridors, has an opportunity for us to reduce cost in the agency or put that resources towards quicker transit. I don't believe a 45-minute or more of a route is really not a good route. When you have to wait 45 minutes, you miss that bus at 90 minutes. So I am looking forward to that. I'm happy to hear that there are appetite for this to happen. And in terms of leading, I'll make sure that I'm leading it because I want to make sure that it happens. So, and bring the other members of the team together when we get into our quarterly meetings. So thanks for that.
Thank you. I'll echo some of your remarks as well. I think I hope we don't wait until next year to figure out what our water taxi fares should be. I agree that, at $5 for a catamaran ride across the coast there is pretty cheap, and it primarily serves tourists. At least I think so. Maybe we should do a survey and find out. But I would strongly support that, as well as charging something for passport service. I think whether we charge regular fares or some kind of a fare for that, because it's primarily to serve tourists and people that are having a good time. So maybe they should pay a little bit to have that good time. Pleased to see that we're looking at advertising possibilities as well. Advertising revenue is a big way we can bring some revenue. Agency. Are there any other last call for questions? Okay.
I know that we, during our retreat, we did say that we were gonna have committees. I think one of them was gonna be budget. Do we know when those are gonna start? I know that we're gonna approve the budget, but I think the earlier we start having discussions, the better.
So we never agreed to the committees at the meeting, if you remember.
I
There
thought we
was
did.
never agreement. What I said is I would bring back a recommendation at the board meeting on what I recommend we should do, but we never came to a conclusion of agreement on having the committee. But I will bring it back to the board. Now that I'll bring it next month, what I say, and then we can publicly vote now if we want to have the committees. So I will bring that in July.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you've heard from staff that, or from the board, that we would like more information on certain topics, including service, job centers, education centers, resources, revenue. So there are a whole bunch of things that the board is quite interested in learning more about and helping. And working with City of Long Beach, I'm glad the city manager is open to expanding talks there and recognizes the importance of Long Beach Transit and moving our citizens around the city and our tourists. Okay, no more comments, so we'll call for the vote. I don't have a screen, so we're gonna have to do a roll
Okay,
call.
I'll do voice. Chair Sutton,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mejia,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Nyorbe,
Aye.
Director Angeles,
Aye.
Director Kemp, Director Rawlings.
Aye.
Director Thrashentuk. Director Kemp has been excused.
Motion carries. A recommendation to adopt fiscal 2025 operating budget of $132,189,921 and the fiscal year 2025 capital budget of $45,843,574 is approved. Now, item 5, any member of the public may comment at this time. Are there any comments from the public? Questions? All right. Now, item 6, are there any requests from the board? Hearing none, we'll move to adjourn. Do I have a recommendation? Oh, we'll move to adjourn to our next meeting on
So
June
Chair,
20.
before you adjourn, if I can just thank the board. I think we went through a lot of discussion post-budget to now, and we got a budget passed. I want to thank you all for passing the budget. We can get to the business of the organization. I took a lot on what I heard being said. I will come back with it, make sure that we can flesh those out. And hopefully we can get the committees that would put us on point of being able to have the information to the board, not like once a year like you feel that you've been getting. So thank you all very much for the vote of confidence on the staff and myself for running the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. We appreciate both you and your staff for putting this together and for all the work you do every day. Do I have a motion to conclude our meeting and to adjourn to the next meeting of June 27th?
So moved.
Awesome, thank you. All right, we'll call for the vote and then we'll have to do a roll call vote again. What? Did I say June? Oh, all right. All right, yeah, we got one more meeting this month. All right, so we'll do a roll call.
Chair Sutton.
Aye.
Vice Chair Mejia,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Nyorbe.
Aye.
Director Angeles,
Aye.
Director Kemp, Director Rawlings.
Aye.
Director Thrashentuk.
Aye.
Director Kemp has been excused.
Okay, the motion carries. The meeting is now adjourned. The next regular meeting will now be held on June 27th, 2024.